Okay. Erev Tov. Jesse took my line. I'm so amazed that anybody came out in this weather. So I must really love Torah very much. And I'm very appreciative of everybody who's here. And Mark and Miriam for hosting. Thank you. I'm going to talk about a topic that is a very important, very central Tanakh topic. It specifically relates to Moshe. But as we're going to see tonight, it also relates more broadly than Moshe, and that's the topic of panim el panim, right? Face to face, right? So this is certainly something that we know Moshe has described twice in the Tanakh as having this panim el panim relationship with Hashem, whatever that means, right? This face-to-face relationship with God. We're going to be talking about some things that tonight, I can't particularly explain, right? These are transcendent kinds of topics, right? What does it mean that God speaks to Moshe panim el panim? But, we'll get a little bit of a sense of not so much what that means, but how that obligates Moshe, right? What it means to have that kind of relationship, to be in that kind of relationship, that I don't know. But how it obligates Moshe, I think we're going to see a little bit of that tonight. So twice we have Moshe described as having a panim el panim relationship. Once Hashem says, Pe el pe adaber bo, right? So there's that some kind of closeness, some kind of intimacy that is described specifically with regard to Moshe. But I'm going to say that I think that in general, this idea of panim el panim in Tanakh goes much beyond Moshe. It becomes this sort of ideal kind of relationship in Tanakh, right? That's what we're looking for. That's what we're striving towards. And oftentimes it's woven into different sections of Tanakh in different ways. So for example, I'll cite from the Mizmor Tehillim, one of the Mizmorei Tehillim that we say most frequently, right? That's Mizmor Kaf Zayin LeDavid Hashem Ori, right? The one that we say twice a day during the period of the Yamim Noraim. So there we have a pasuk that says, Lecha Amar Libi Bakshu Fanai, Et Panecha Hashem Avakesh, right? So there's that Panai, Panecha, right? So again, that pasuk is a little bit difficult to translate, but there seems to be some kind of request for panim el panim. When we talk about panim el panim in Tanakh, that seems to be the ultimate ideal. Whatever it describes some kind of intimate relationship with God. The flip side of that, what we would call the least ideal kind of relationship with God is hester panim, right? It's hester panim. It's when God hides his face and prevents communication, right? So that the direct kind of communication is when God's facing us and we are facing him. And the ultimate sort of failure would seem to be hester panim. I'm going to correct that in a little bit, right? I don't think it's the ultimate failure. I'll talk about that soon. But even in that mizmor, right, we have L'cha amar libi bakshu fanai et panecha Hashem avakesh, al taster panecha mimeni, right? Do not hide your face from me. So we have almost kind of schizophrenic way, right? In the Mizmor, we request this sort of panim el panim relationship, and then you take this sort of recoil backward and say, at least don't hide your face from me, right? I really like the panim el panim. At the very least, I want some measure of communication, right? So that's kind of the basis for the relationship, the two poles of the relationship that I want to talk about today. The panim el panim relationship, which is most deeply associated with Moshe, actually is not described first with regard to Moshe. Who's the first person in Tanakh that is described having this panim el panim relationship? Anybody? Before Moshe? What? Avram's not described with the panim el panim relationship, although it's a logical assumption. What? Kain, no, we have lama naflu panecha, right? We have the panim there, but not the panim el panim relationship. We actually have it described with Yaakov, right? With Yaakov, after he struggles with the mysterious man, right? So if you look in Bereshit, Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Lamed Aleph, right here we have the description of Yaakov's struggle with the mysterious man who Hosea tells us is actually a malach, and in Pasuk Lamed, Vayikra Yaakov Shema Makom Peniel, Ki Ra'iti Elohim Panim El Panim Vatinatzel Nafshi. Right? So we have Yaakov saying, calling the place Peniel. He says, I have seen Hashem Panim El Panim, and my life has been saved. Right? So there's two things that I want to mention here. One is that Yaakov's relationship is not the same as Moshe's. right? He has a one-time encounter, right? Moshe has an ongoing kind of relationship where Hashem says, I speak to Moshe, panim el panim ka'asher yidaber ish el re'ehu. It's an amazing description, right? Like a person speaks to his friend. Panim el panim. Again, whatever that means. But the other point that I wanted you to note here with regard to Yaakov is that Yaakov seems to feel that this encounter with God, panim el panim, is perilous, right? There's a certain danger attached to it. Vatinatzel nafshi. Now, it could be that he's saying vatinatzel nafshi from my struggle with the man before. But the juxtaposition here of Al Kain Ra'iti Hashem Panim Al Panim Vatinatzel Nafshi suggests that what he's really saying is even though I saw God in this intimate way, my life was saved. And that reading, I think it's a better reading because that reading is indicated by the other Tanakh figure who describes himself seeing Hashem Panim Al Panim, and who's that? Anybody know? Gidon, good, okay. Shoftim Perek Vav. Look in Shoftim Perek Vav. Look at what Gidon here says, right? This is remember when Gideon has this malach appear to him, right? And he has this conversation with the malach. Hashem imcha gibor hachayil v'chiyesh Hashem imanu, right? That whole exchange that Gideon has with the malach. But Gideon obviously does not realize that it's a malach until the malach mysteriously disappears. And then in Pasuk Kaf Bet, look at what Gideon says. I'm in Perek Vav in Sefer Shoftim, Pasuk Kaf Bet. Vayar Gideon ki malach Hashem hu, vayomer Gideon aha Hashem Elokim, ki al ken ra'iti malach Hashem panim el panim. Right? Aha Hashem Elokim. Whoa, God! I have seen God. I've seen the angel of God. Panim al panim. And look at what God responds to Gideon in Pasuk Kaf Gimel. Vayomer lo Hashem shalom lecha al tira lo tamut. Right? Don't worry, everything's fine. You're not going to die. Right? But again, the assumption that attends this kind of encounter is that this kind of encounter is a perilous one, right? And I think that that's in general true in Tanakh, right? That the closer one gets into the sphere of Kedusha, of transcendence, whatever that means, closeness to God, right? We have Kedusha in the temporal sphere, right? Kedushat Hazman. We have it in the spatial sphere, Kedushat HaMakom, right? You go into the Mikdash. We also have Kedushat HaAdam. Whenever we encounter Kedusha, there's a danger, right? Think about the best example probably is the Mikdash, right? You're going into the Mikdash, you know that you can't trespass beyond a certain point, right? And if you do, you have to do it very carefully, right? Exactly following the instructions that God gives us, right? So this kind of encounter with Kedusha, this direct intimacy with God, it has a certain kind of peril to it. And this brings me back to that point of Hester Panim. I said before, Hester Panim is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, right? The ultimate ideal is Panim Panim, and what we would call perhaps the less than ideal, or perhaps the worst case scenario, is Hester Panim. But I said I'm gonna sort of retract that later, and what I want to suggest is that this idea that God is Panim el Panim also obligates, right? It obligates. When you have this kind of closeness with God, it means that God is looking at you. It means that he's holding you to a higher standard, right? And actually, several times we have the description of God punishing with kind of a phrase that describes God, Visamti et panai ba'ishahu. I will place my face against that person. That's an idiom. That's a description of God punishing. What it means is God saying, I'm looking at you. If I'm looking at you, I'm holding you to a higher standard. And actually, when you look in Megillat Echa, which of course is the Megillah, which is lamenting alienation from God, the distance from God in the aftermath of the terrible fall of Yerushalayim and the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash and the exile, right? So one of the requests that runs throughout Megillat Echa, the people have very minimal requests from God, right? Until the very end. That's the very end. Return us to you, God, and restore our days as days of old. But throughout the Megillah, there are really only two requests of God. One is, avenge us from our enemies, right? One can certainly understand that request. The other request that runs throughout the Megillah is, Re'ei Hashem v'habita. Look at me, God, right? What's that suggesting? God's not looking, right? It's a period of hester panim. In order to rekindle the relationship, in order to restart the relationship, we have to just sort of restart communication. And God is not looking. And so in Perek Aleph, Yerushalayim turns to God and says, Re'eh Hashem v'habita. 3 times. Re'eh Hashem, Re'eh Hashem, Re'eh Hashem. In Perek Bet, Re'eh Hashem v'habita. In Perek Gimel at the end of the Perek. In Perek Hey starts out, Zechor Hashem, sorry. What? What is it? Zechor Hashem, thank you. Zechor Hashem mehaya lanu. Habita ur'eh et cherpatenu, right? It's re'eh v'habita. The only parak, and this is, I think, the key point, the only parak where we don't have this request of re'eh Hashem v'habita is in Perek Dalet, right? In Perek Dalet, for some reason, there's no request from God to look. And the reason, I think, is because when the exile is being described, it's described in, I think it's in Pasuk Tet Zayin, Pinei Hashem chilakam lo yosif lahabitam. Right? The face of God scattered them, and he didn't continue to look at them. And you know what? There's sort of a sigh of relief, right? Maybe it's not the right time to ask God to resume this kind of looking at us, right? There may be a certain element of chesed in the hester panim, right? When God turns aside, Am Yisrael can recuperate, Am Yisrael can begin a tikkun, they can begin to fix themselves, and then they can again be in this kind of quest for an intimate relationship which has an element of peril, okay? And that's the point that I think that we see over and over throughout the Tanakh. Throughout the Tanakh, there's this desire for intimacy with God, there's this excitement, this surge forward, but at the same time, there's a fear, there's a recoil backward. And I think that this is, part of the very essence of the relationship with God. It's described over and over and over throughout the Tanakh. You could call it Ahavat Hashem and Yirat Hashem, right? The love of God that causes you to surge forward, the fear of God that causes you to recoil backward. But perhaps the best metaphor for this sort of relationship is the metaphor that most frequently describes God and God's presence in Tanakh. And what is that? Fire, right? Fire. God is often sort of appearing, revealing himself in a fire. What is fire, right? Fire is something that draws us near, right? We're looking for its warmth, we're looking for its light, but at the same time, we know that we have to be careful, right? We know that we have to approach fire with caution because there is something perilous about approaching fire, right? It's really a wonderful metaphor. There's a lot of reasons why it's a great metaphor. It's not the only metaphor, but it certainly is a very ubiquitous one, right? It appears really all over Tanakh, and I think it really gives us a good sense of what the Tanakh is, how the Tanakh is trying to represent our desire, but also our pulling back in the relationship with God. Okay, so to understand the Panim El Panim relationship a little bit better, I want to turn to Moshe, because Moshe, of course, is the one who is described with this Panim El Panim relationship. Let's start with the first place where Moshe is described in this way, and that is in Shmot Perek Lamed Gimel, right, in the whole aftermath of the Chet HaEgel. Shmot Perek Lamed Gimel, Pasuk Yud Aleph. We have this description here. It's really a wondrous description. I mean, it's hard to even really internalize. In Pasuk Yud Aleph, V'diber Adonai el Moshe panim el panim, ka'asher yidaber ish el re'ehu, v'shav el hamachane, u'misharato Yehoshua bin Nun, nar lo yamush mitoch ha'ohel. Okay, so we have this description of Moshe speaking to God. This is what I was saying before. Ki'ish el re'ehu, right? Like a man speaks to a friend. And when he goes back to the camp, there's Yehoshua in the tent. We'll get back to Yehoshua in a few minutes. But this description, I think it's an awe-inspiring description. It's not a one-time encounter. This is the way that God encounters Moshe. That having been said, what I think is very sort of curious and perplexing is that just a few psukim later, God's going to take it back, right? Almost. Okay? Just look ahead in at the continuation of this parak, Pasuk Kaf. Okay? Hashem is speaking to Moshe, and Moshe says, Harini na et kvodecha, and God says basically, okay, v'chaloti et asher acham, v'richamti et asher achem, right? Vayomer, Pasuk Kaf, lo tuchal lir'ot et panai, ki lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai. Did you ever notice that? It's just a few psukim later, Right? You just told me that you have a special relationship with Moshe, which is panim al panim. And now you're saying, no, you can't really. Not really, right? And he says it again, right? In Pasuka Kaf Gimel Vaseroti et kapi v'ra'ita et achorai ufanai lo yira. Right? You can't see my face. Okay, so you can, but you can't. Right? Again, I'm not going to resolve this question. Right? It's an unresolved question. It's an unresolvable question. We don't really understand what it means to talk to God panim al panim, and certainly we can imagine why God would say, you can't see my panim, right? And we don't really know even what the panim of God means, right? But what I want to point out, what I think we can understand here, is that there is a tension that is being created here, right? Moshe, who is the person who achieves the most intimate relationship with God, he is being drawn back. He's being pulled back, right? You can, but you really can't. Okay, so that kind of tension, I think, is very much woven into any description of closeness to God. And we're going to see a couple more examples of that as we progress. But I want to show you one other passage that I think is part of the trajectory here of this whole description of Perek Lamed Gimel and the encounter between Moshe and God. Look in Perek Lamed Daled. Look at what happens when Moshe comes down from Har Sinai. And this is a wonderful passage. Some of the Mefarshim recognize that it's the continuation of the Panim al Panim story, which is what I want to show you. Look in Pasuk Kaftet. Okay? Vayi beredet Moshe. I'm in Perek Lamed Daled, Pasuk Kaftet. Vayi beredet Moshe mehar Sinai, u'shnei luchot ha'edut biyad Moshe beridto min ha'har, u'Moshe lo yada, ki karan or panav bidabro ito. Right? Moshe doesn't know that he has horns, right? No, that's just my comment, right? He doesn't know that his face is radiating light. Why is his face radiating light? Because he had panim al panim, right? That radiation of light, according to the Ramban, according to Rabbeinu Bechai, according to some of the Mefarshim, that's a direct result of the panim al panim. But look at what happens. I mean, and what day is this, according to Chazal? What day does he come down with the second luchot? It's Yom Kippur, right? He's coming down with the second luchot. His face is shining. The people are the beneficiaries, to some degree, of his panim al panim relationship with God. By the way, I think this is pshat in the famous midrash about the relationship between Moshe and Yoshua. Moshe's the sun. Yoshua is the moon. Does the moon have light? No. The moon reflects the light of the sun, right? Does Yoshua have panim al panim? No, but what does he have? Lo yamush mitoch ohalo shel Moshe. He's the misharet Moshe. He's the one who stays in Moshe's tent. He's the one who most reflects Moshe's light. Right? There's a lot to say about that midrash. It's a great midrash, but I think it really bears understanding through the context of what we're talking about right now. So look look at what happens with this shining face. How do the people respond to the shining face? Pasuk Lamed in Perek Lamed Daled, Vayar Aaron v'chol bnei Yisrael et Moshe v'hinei karan or panav. They see him; his face is shining. Vayiru migeshet elav. They're terrified. Right? Well, that's the natural response, right? And they're seeing some kind of residue of Moshe's panim al panim, and they're afraid. Everybody's afraid when they encounter panim al panim. Okay? Moshe doesn't seem to be afraid, by the way. We're going to talk about why in a few minutes. But let's go on. Look at what happens here in Pasuka Lamed Bet, okay? ואחריכן ניגשו כל בני ישראל ויצווים את כל אשר דיבר אדוני איתו בהר סיני. ויחל משה מדבר איתם וייתן על פניו מסווה. Okay? Moshe speaks to the people. He speaks to the people. The people are terrified, right? They see some kind of residue, some kind of residual panim al panim radiance, and they're very afraid. Moshe continues to speak to them, and then he puts on a veil. Okay, why does he put on a veil? Because the people are afraid. But here's the critical element. When does he take off the veil? Okay, let's look at the next two psukim. Look in Pasuk Lamed Daled. Uvivo Moshe lifnei Adonai lidaber ito, yasir et hamasveh ad seito, v'yatza v'diber el bnei Yisrael et asher yitzuveh. The first part of the pasuk makes a lot of sense. Whenever Moshe goes before God, he takes off the veil, right? That makes sense because he's trying to get that panim al panim, right? He can't be wearing the veil if he wants a panim al panim. But here's the peculiar part. When he goes out to speak to Bnei Israel, he also is not wearing the veil. Okay? Look at the next pasuk. That's what it seems like. V'ra'u v'nei Yisrael et pnei Moshe ki karan or pnei Moshe. They see Moshe's shining face. V'heshiv Moshe tamasveh al panav ad ba'oli leberito. It's not exactly clear, right? These things remain somewhat mysterious, right? But what it sounds like from the order of the psukim is he goes into the Ohel Moed, he has this kind of communication with God, comes out, he speaks to the people, they see it, and then he puts on the veil, right? There's this almost something here that is, insistent that he wants the people to see the Karan or Panav. He's not keeping it for himself, right? The people may be a little bit hesitant, but he shows it to them in any case. So that, I think, all of this, I think, is very much, part of the mysterium magnum of the Tanakh, right? Whatever it is that we're being told here, we see certain things that we can understand. We can understand the tension, we can understand the radiance, the excitement, we understand the fear, right? To understand why Moshe does not seem to be afraid requires us to go backward to the first encounter between God and Moshe. That's, of course, the burning bush. Okay, so let's go back to Shemot Perek Gimel. This is really the very beginning of the Moshe-Hashem relationship. What do we see here in this description of Moshe by the burning bush? So look back in Shemot Perek Gimel. Let's start in Pasuk... Pasuk Bet, right? Vayera malach Adonai elav bilabat esh mitoch hasneh, vayar v'hinei hasneh bo'er ba'esh, v'hasneh enenu ukal. It's an amazing description, right? The burning bush, there's that fire, right? We're expecting the fire. The fire doesn't consume. Right? There's so much to say about this fire that doesn't consume. And I know there's so much to say because the Midrashim go in all different directions here. And they go on and on and on, right? I mean, the idea that the sneh is Egypt and the Aish is the enslavement, or the sneh is the Am Yisrael and the Aish is the enslavement, right? The fire. The hasneh einenu ukal. Right? You can't so easily destroy Am Yisrael. Recently, I saw a book on the Holocaust that was called "V'hasneh einenu ukal." Right? It's moving, right? But I think that the pshat here is that the sneh einenu ukal is an image of God, right? Moshe is encountering God. That's what this story is about. The story represents Moshe's first spiritual encounter, and in this encounter, what he learns is the fire doesn't consume. Right? That's an important lesson. I think that's part of why Moshe is able to encounter the fire at Har Sinai and move towards the fire at Har Sinai. Right? The Midrashim do also go in this direction as well, that part of this is a learning experience for Moshe so that Moshe will approach the fire on Har Sinai. That's definitely, I think, part of the story. But there's a lot going on here in this story. Let's look at the next few psukim. Vayomer Moshe. Moshe is quite enchanted by this sight. Asura na ve'er'eh et hamar'eh hagadol hazeh. Let me go see this great sight. Madua lo yivar hasaneh. Vayar Hashem kisar lerot. Vayikra elev Elohim mitoch hasneh. Vayomer Moshe, vayomer hineni. You see the excitement, right? The surge for it. I'm going to go see that. And then he's called by God, and God says, Moshe, he says, here I am. And look at what Hashem says. First words, Vayomer al. Not just al tikrav halom. Don't come too close, right? That's a message, right? That's the initial lesson. The initial lesson is stay back, right? Surge forward, move back, and then when God introduces himself in Pasuk Vav, it's the same tension, right? When God introduces himself in Pasuk Vav, Vayomer Anochi Elohei Avich Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Vayaster Moshe Panav Ki Yareh Mehabit El HaElohim. There's a great moment. He covers his face. Okay, it's the masveh. It's the veil, right? The people want Moshe to cover his face because they feel the reflection of this panim al panim. Moshe here is covering his face from that panim al panim, right? Now, everybody covers their face, right, when they encounter God. Who else covers their face when they encounter God? Last week's Haftarah. Not last week's. The week before. Yeshayahu, right? Eliyahu. Right? Moshe, none of this surprises us, right? We see it. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. We're going to keep talking about it tonight. But I do want to say one thing, and that is that there's a really famous machloket that I brought on the non-source sheet. If anybody wants a source sheet, I can send it to you. You can, send me an email, Yael Ziegler at gmail.com. I'll send you the source sheet. But there is this wonderful midrash. It's a midrash that leaves kind of an unresolved machloket, right? The midrash says as follows. It says, Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha is arguing with Rabbi Hoshaya, right? Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha says, Lo yafeh asa Moshe shehi stir et panav. Right? Moshe didn't do the right thing. And then he goes on to explain what would have happened had Moshe not hidden his face at this moment. He says, later on, when Moshe says to God, Harini not kvodecha, God says, well, lo tuchal lirot et panai. But had he not covered his face to begin with, God would have allowed him entrance into this mysterious world. Right? So Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha says, Lo yafeh asa Moshe. Rabbi Hoshaya says, Ma pitom, what are you talking about? Yafeh asa Moshe shehi stir et panav. Moshe did exactly the right thing. Why do you think God eventually appears to him panim al panim? Because he shows proper reverence. What's the right answer? So the right answer, obviously, is, you're going to say both. I'm going to say the right answer is we don't know. That's really the right answer. The right answer is that it's an unresolved machloket because we don't know if it was the right thing to do. I'm going to say, also Moshe didn't know if it was the right thing to do. We don't know what the right thing to do is because this whole experience of panim al panim is so tension-filled. It's so filled with this dialectic of wanting to surge forward, of ahavat Hashem, and wanting to recoil backward, and that is yirat Hashem. And the answer is that they're both right and they're both wrong, right? In other words, whatever we do, we're constantly questioning the other side, right? This is the dialectic that we live with, right? It's the dialectic of Avinu Malkeinu, right? Is God our Father or is God our King? Are we close or are we far? Im kivanim rachamenu kirachem av al banim, right? If he's our Father, so he should treat us as a father. Im ka'avadim, right? But if if we are just servants, then he should treat us as servants, right? In other words, there's a constant tension of closeness and far in every aspect of our relationship with God. This is, I think, one of the most basic tensions that the religious person experiences, and we have it with Moshe, right? Moshe is our lodestar, right? Moshe is the model. He's the exemplary spiritual figure in Tanakh, and this is what he's struggling with. And I think it becomes an example of what we're all meant to be struggling with. We're meant to be struggling with this. Now, this whole story of the Sneh continues at Har Sinai, right? You know that Sneh, Sinai, right? Okay, so, the Ibn Ezra actually goes so far as to suggest that the name of the mountain before the Sneh story was Chorev, right? That we have in Perek Gimel Pasuk Aleph, right? But it's renamed Har Sinai because of the Sneh, right? Because Moshe encounters there this burning bush, and that becomes sort of the, central feature of this mountain. But however you understand it, certainly I think we understand that the story of Har Sinai is the continuation of Ma'amad HaSneh, right? There's lots and lots of linguistic connections, which I'm not going to go into right now. But for example, in Devarim Perek Daled, which is the retelling of Parshat Yitro, right? It's the retelling of Ma'amad Har Sinai. We're describing the experience of Am Yisrael standing at Har Sinai, and the mountain is described as V'hahar Bo'er Ba'esh, V'hasneh Bo'er Ba'esh, right? There are lots and lots of linguistic parallels between Ma'amad HaSneh, Moshe's experience at the Sneh, and Ma'amad Har Sinai. And as I said before, some of the Midrashim, which I think note this parallel, suggest that the whole point of Ma'amad HaSneh is to prepare Moshe so that when he gets to Har Sinai, he won't be afraid. He'll see the Eish, he'll see that it's not going to consume him, and he'll be able to enter that Eish. But there's another point I think that we have here, which is that Moshe does enter the Eish on Har Sinai, right? If you look, well, let's do this week's parsha. It's always fun to do a little bit of this week's parsha. Let's look in Shmuel Perek Kaf Daled, right? The end of this week's parsha. Let's look at how it's described here. This encounter of Moshe with the fire. We're in Perek Kaf Daled. Let's look in Pasuk Tet Zayin. Okay, Vayishkon Kavod Adonai al Har Sinai. Vaychaseu ha'anan ששת ימים, ויקרא אל משה ביום השביעי מתוך הענן. ומראה כבוד אדוני כאש אוכלת בראש ההר, לעיני בני Israel. Right, so Moshe goes up to the mountain, and the glory of God is sitting on the mountain. These are things, again, these are things that are hard to explain, but we do have certain images here that are here to help us. We have the Anan, we have the cloud, and we have God calling to Moshe from within the cloud. And then we have the image of the Kvod Hashem, of the glory of God, is like a consuming fire at the top of the mountain. Now we understand why Egel Hazav happened, right? The people saw Moshe walk into that. Of course they think he died, right? Zeh Moshe Aish, we don't know what happened to him, right? Because we saw him go into the fire. Vayavo Moshe b'toch ha'anan. Look at that. Moshe goes into the anan. He doesn't go into the fire, right? The fire is there. You see the fire, but Moshe's encased by the anan. I brought for you on the source sheet two Zohars, which both say the same thing. They say this cloud, it's protective gear for Moshe. He couldn't possibly have walked into the Eish, into the fire of God without the anan. Whatever that means. I'm making that point deliberately because I want to come back to it later. But, think of the fireman, right? The fireman doesn't go into a burning building without protective gear, right? This is the protective gear that's being given Moshe. The psukim here seem to suggest that, and right, because he walks into the Anan. The Aish is there, but he somehow is protected by the fire. However you understand it, the encounter is a dangerous one, right? And Moshe walks in unhesitatingly, right? God calls him in. Moshe goes in. He couldn't go in had God not called him. But what do we learn from Moshe's experience? Really what I want to ask is Moshe just an exemplar of spirituality that is unattainable? Or is he teaching us something? Right? I keep presenting it as if we're meant to learn something from Moshe, something about our spirituality, our spiritual experience. And I think that is, in fact, the way that the Torah is presenting it, because even though Moshe becomes this sort of, unattainable figure, the one who God speaks to him panim el panim. If you look at the very last psukim of the Tanakh, look in not the Tanakh, the Torah, right? Look at the end of Sefer Devarim. In Devarim, Perek Lamed Daled Pasuk Yud, right? 2 psukim before the end. V'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe, asher yida'o Adonai panim el panim. It sounds like nobody could be like Moshe. No Navi, no prophet, no one in any sort of spiritual communication with God can ever live up to Moshe, right? That's kind of the way the Torah ends. And yet, at the same time, there is one other figure in the Torah that has a panim el panim relationship, a panim bifanim relationship. Anybody know who that is? It's all of us. It's all of Am Yisrael at Har Sinai. All of us. We were all there, right? The description in Devarim, Perek Hey, says very explicitly, look in Perek Hey, Pasuk Dalet, Panim bifanim diber Adonai imachem bahar mitoch ha'esh. All of us. We all got the panim bifanim. And what was our response? Whoa, too much, right? That was our response in Yitro. But you see in Yitro, you see the same tension. In Parshat Yitro, right? In Shmot Perek Yutet, you see the same tension. The people are really excited. They're surging forward. God says to Moshe, hey, tell them not to come near the mountain, right? You have to limit the people. Don't let them come near the mountain. What that suggests to us, of course, is that they're excited, right? They're surging towards the mountain. They want that experience. But then when they get it, they're terrified, right? And we see it in Shmot. We see it again in Devarim. The fear is, I think, overwhelms even the excitement, right? So this, in this kind of with this understanding, I think what's extraordinary is that Moshe is unique, but he's not unique, right? Because everybody could really attain panim bifanim, right? There's something about this idea which, is really incredible, this idea of assuming that all of Am Yisrael is and can be worthy of the kind of spiritual encounter that is really only described with Moshe. Right? I think it relates to the idea that we have that somehow all of us were at Har Sinai, right? What is that idea? What is it the Chazal are trying to say? All of us have the core ability to encounter God in that very close way, right? Moshe's experience is democratized in the Torah, where everybody has the opportunity to have that. And in this sense, I would even reinterpret maybe the story of Moshe's encounter at the burning bush as not being a story that prepares Moshe to encounter God, but that prepares Moshe to lead the people to encounter God, right? Moshe is the great spiritual leader. He's the one who's teaching the people. So he has his own personal encounter, but then at Har Sinai, Moshe is the one who prepares the people to encounter God. I think this is a remarkable idea in Tanakh, right? The spiritual elite of Tanakh, right? It is Moshe Rabbeinu. But really, everybody has panim b'fanim. This idea is true when we talk about prophecy in general. Prophecy is not limited to one tribe. It's not limited to one social class. It's not limited to one gender. It's not limited to anybody, right? Anybody can be a prophet. In fact, one of my favorite passages in the Nevi'im, which describes Acharit Hayamim, is actually in the third parak of Yael, right? In the third parak of Yael, you can get there quickly enough, you can see it inside, right? Yael's right before Amos, right after Hosea, easily missed, right? V'haya Acharei chen, parak Gimel pasuk Aleph, eshpoch et ruchi al kol basar. God says, at that point, I will spill out my prophecy, my ruach, on everybody. Look at what it says here. V'nib'u b'nechem uvnotechem. Your sons will prophesy, your daughters will prophesy. Ziknechem chalomot yechalomun. Bachurechem chezyonot yir'u. Right, your elders, your youth. V'gam al ha'avadim. V'al hashfachot. Bayamim ha'hema eshpoch et ruchi. Right, the servant class. Right, everybody will have this will have attained this high spiritual status. Right? I think this is really a remarkable idea. This idea that Moshe is unique, but everybody can aspire to have that kind of relationship. And the tension that we have in the story of Har Sinai very much reminds us of Moshe. But is that where the story ends? Panim al panim. Moshe gets it at Ma'amad Asneh to some degree. He gets it even more so at Har Sinai. All of Am Yisrael get it at Har Sinai, and that's the end of the story. It's not the end of the story, right? The Panim el Panim experience is meant to be perpetuated, right? We take it with us as we leave Har Sinai. How do we do it? Okay, good. The Kruvim, I would say the whole Mishkan experience, right? The whole Mishkan experience, which the Ramban already tells us that the Mishkan, the whole reason that we build the Mishkan is to continue the Har Sinai experience, right? We have there this great revelation of God. We have this great, it's a big machloket between the Ramban and Rashi, right? So the Ramban says, nobody wants to leave Har Sinai, right? Sod HaMishkan, the secret of the Mishkan is to continue the revelation of God that we had on that one-time dramatic encounter, but to continue it on a daily basis. And that's, of course, the Mishkan. I mean, the truth is that if you look at the very end of Sefer Shemot, you see that the words that are used to describe Hashem's divine presence on the Mishkan very much reminds us of what we read in Parshat Mishpatim, God's divine presence on Har Sinai. Let's just skip there for 1 second. Look in Shemot Parak Mem, the very end of Sefer Shemot. Right, Vayichas, Parak Mem, Pasuk Lamed Daled of Sefer Shemot, Vayichas ha'anan et Oel Moed, Uchvod Hashem Malei et HaMishkan, right? The Anan, the cloud covers, and the Kvod Hashem, right? The glory of God fills it. V'lo yachol Moshe lavo Oel Moed, ki shachan alav Anan, Uchvod Hashem Malei et HaMishkan. Here the Anan prevents Moshe from entering, right? Uvehalot ha'anan me'al Mishkan yisu b'nei Yisrael b'chol maseihem, v'im lo ya'aleh ha'anan v'lo yisu ad yom ha'alato. That's not relevant to us. Ki anan Hashem al Mishkan yomam, ve'eish tiyeh Laila Bo, right? So we have the Anan, we have the Eish, we have the Kvod Hashem, we have the word Shachan. Right? All these words remind us of Har Sinai. When the Ramban says that the Mishkan is a perpetuation of the experience of Har Sinai, he's also bringing a lot of these linguistic parallels, right? But again, it's not just all these linguistic parallels. And don't forget, when we stand far away from the Mishkan and we look at it from afar, what do we see? Eish, right? We see the Eish Tamid. That's what you see. You see the Eish, right? I mean, that's the image of the Mishkan. Just like when you stand far away from Har Sinai, you see the Eish. But it's not just that. It's also that, there's a problem with the Mishkan, right? Because the Mishkan is frightening. You've noticed before that Sefer Shemot ends with a crisis. It's a crisis, right? We build the Mishkan, but then Moshe can't come inside, right? That's all Sefer Vayikra, right? Go and learn, right? That's all Sefer Vayikra. Sefer Vayikra is solving the crisis. The crisis is how do I come into the Mishkan? God's in there. And God calls Moshe from the Mishkan, Sefer Vayikra, right? God calls Moshe and says, you want to know how to come in? This is how you come in. Bring the korbanot, do it in this way and in that way. Here's how you come in, right? That's the whole beginning section, certainly, of Sefer Vayikra. But the most significant point, we know that the Mishkan is a place where there's peril, right? There's closeness to God. Nadav and Avihu is a great example, right? Where the Eish Hashem comes out, right? Because Nadav and Avihu have violated something in the Mishkan. It's even hard to know what it is. Again, it's always that mysteriousness, right? There's a big argument. What is it that Nadav and Avihu exactly did, right? But again, there's that sense of violating the sanctity of God. There's something that is very frightening about entering into the presence of God, and yet at the same time, by the way, there's another thing that always reminds me of the connection between Har Sinai and the Mishkan, and that is the stratification of who can come close, right? So, Moshe can go to the top, and then Yoshua and there's Canaan and Am Yisrael. It's the same thing in the Mishkan, right? We can come to the Ezrat Nashim, and then there's the Kohanim, they can go into the Codis, right? They can go past the point, and there's the Kohen Gadol, they can go past that point, right? So there's, again, this sense of being very careful as we approach the Mishkan. But perhaps the thing that is most important for our purpose tonight is this panim el panim that we have in the Mishkan, right? Where does God appear to us in the Mishkan? From between the Kruvim, who are panim el panim, right? But I'm not going to talk about that for now. God is appearing to the people from, let's say this is the Kodesh Kodashim, right? I wouldn't be standing here, but let's say this is the Kodesh Kodashim, right? And here's the Kruvim, right? So God is facing the people from here, right? And what's the next kli in the Beit HaMikdash in this linear row? The Mizbeach HaZahav. And what's after that? No, I'm sorry, the Mizbeach HaZahav, the Mizbeach HaKtorah, that's in the Kodesh. And what's in the same line, lined up? The Mizbeach, right? The Mizbeach, where the people bring their korbanot. So the people come, right where Rachel's sitting, right there, right? The people come till there, right? Bring the Mizbeach, facing the Kodesh Kodashim. God is facing them. And what's buffering between them? The Anan Ketoret, right? The Anan Ketoret. That's the Panim El Panim, right? That's the recreation of the Panim El Panim that we have on Har Sinai. But what's really, I think, the ultimate experience of Panim El Panim in the Mishkan and in the Mikdash is that moment. Well, I mean, if you look at Sefer Vayikra, right? Sefer Vayikra, I said, is really an answer to the crisis that of the end of Sefer Shemot. And, the first 7 prakim tell us all of the korbanot. But what's sort of the climactic moment of solving the crisis is Vayikra Perek Tet Zayin. Vayikra Perek Tet Zayin is oftentimes called Avodat Yom HaKippurim. That's not a good name, because we don't find out until Pasuk Kaftet that it's Avodat Yom HaKippurim. What's the right title for that perek? That is the perek of Bizot Yavo Aharon El HaKodesh. The perek is the perek of how are we going to get into the Holy of Holies, into the inner sanctum, right? And of course, it's the coming together of all the most intense Kiddushot, right? We talked about Kiddushat Hazman, Kiddushat HaMakom, Kiddushat HaAdam. It's the holiest person, the person who's infused with the ability to get closest to God on the holiest day of the year, coming into the holiest place, right? That's Avodat Yom HaKippurim. And how does he come into the Kodesh? Well, let's look in Vayikra, Perek Tet Zayin. Look at what we have here in Vayikra, Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuka. Well, let's look in Pasuk Yud Gimel. Okay, we have this whole avoda, and then the moment comes, the moment arrives that the Kohen Gadol has to go into the Kodesh Kodashim. It's fraught with peril, right? It's fraught with peril. We don't know if he's going to live or die. That's what it means to go into the Kodesh Kodashim. How does he go into the Kodesh Kodashim? Pasuk Yud Gimel, V'natan et haketoret al ha'esh lifnei Adonai. V'chisa anan ha'ketoret et ha'kaporet asher al ha'edut v'lo yamut. How does he go in? He puts the ketoret on the fire and a cloud goes up. It's the recreating of the Moshe moment. The Chizkuni says, were it not for the Anan, Moshe would not be, the Kohen Gadol would not be able to be in the Kodesh Kodashim. Because the Kodesh Kodashim is filled with God's Shechina. And so he needs the Anan to buffer. That's the Moshe story, right? That's the Moshe story. And of course, by the way, the Gemara seems to indicate there's a Gemara in Yuma on Daf Daled, which talks about the correlation between the Kohen Gadol having to prepare for 7 days before Yom Kippur and Moshe, who's called into the cloud on the 7th day, right? So the Gemara basically says, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, that's Moshe. Don't forget, what day does Moshe come down with his face shining? That's Yom Kippur. That's the most intense experience. We're recreating Moshe every Yom Kippur. The central event of Yom HaKippurim is a panim al panim experience. It's the recreation, it's the perpetuation of the Har Sinai experience. It's taking place in the Mishkan or in the Mikdash, in the Kodesh Kodashim. The Kohen Gadol is sort of a recreation of Moshe's experience of coming close to God. I think it's a wonderful thing, because what we're saying is we don't leave it behind with Moshe. It's not just Moshe. The Kohen Gadol does this every year. And what happens when the Kohen Gadol emerges from the Kodesh Kodashim? We all know, right? What happens? Kidmut hakeshet betoch ha'anan, kechochav hanoga bigvul hamizrach, kiner hametzitz miben hachalonot. What am I citing here? Kiroei zrichat shemesh al haaretz, emet ma nehedar haya kohen gadol b'tzeito mibeit hakodshei hakodashim. Bli fega, right? The Kohen Gadol comes out of the Kodesh Kodashim and his face is shining with the radiance of having come into contact with God. And what happens when he comes out, right? We read these, the Avodat Yom Kippurim, on Yom Kippur, the whole Am Yisrael surges forward to try to come into contact with the Kohen Gadol. It's Moshe without the Masaveh, right? Everybody wants to get some kind of residue of the Kohen Gadol's experience, the burst of excitement. We feel it in Shul, right? If there's one thing we don't have the Avodat Yom Kippurim today, right? We are missing that. We're missing Moshe, we're missing the Kohen Gadol, we're missing the Avodat Yom Kippurim. But what we do have, actually, I don't know, does everybody, you don't daven it? You don't do it in yeah, you don't do it? Oh, no, okay. So that's why you didn't recognize that, all those citations. Because I can tell you that nobody here has ever heard Emet Ma Nehedar in. Okay, so if anybody has, I'm sorry, because I'm sorry that you haven't heard it, because it's this incredibly powerful moment, right? It's this incredibly powerful moment. We read do you read the Avodat Yom Kippurim? Yes. Okay, so the Avodat Yom Kippurim. No. So the Avodat Yom Kippurim, you can turn off the video for a moment. It's a little dry, right? The recitation is a little dry. But what everybody's waiting for, at least in our show, is that final moment when we have that burst of this song, of all this energy, which is describing the radiance of the Kohen Gadol as he emerges from the Kodesh Kodashim, bli fega, right, without having been harmed. And the radiance of his face, I think, really describes the Moshe experience, right, the Karana or Panav. So that Pute, that song, that we sing, that Ashkenazim sing during the Avodat Yom Kippurim, really, I think, captures this idea that the experience of the Kohen Gadol really recreates the Moshe experience. So all this, I think, indicates to us that the Moshe experience, it's not meant to be limited to Moshe, and the Har Sinai experience is not meant to be limited to Har Sinai. And the attempt to try to extend this experience both horizontally and vertically, right, through the Dorot, I think indicates that this whole story is meant to be the model for the way in which we encounter God. I remain, though, with one question, which is, okay, what about us today, right? We don't have the Kohanga Though. We don't have Moshe. We don't have Har Sinai. We don't have the Mikdash. We don't have the Mishka. You don't even have Emet Mana Adar, right? I mean, really, what's left? So there is something left. And this is the final point that I want to make. I think that there is one experience of Panim el Panim that we recreate. We in Israel, now when I say we, I don't mean Ashkenazim, I mean in Israel, we recreate it on a daily basis, Birkat Kohanim. Absolutely. Oh, there you go. Okay, you've made up for not having Emet Manedar. Fine. Okay. So what is Birkat Kohanim, right? So, I mean, in the Mikdash, the Kohanim would stand with their outstretched hands, right? I assume some of you are Kohanim. There's a Tawil in the house? No? Yeah. Dweck? Yeah? Okay, there you go. Some Kohanim, right? Okay, but it makes it easier when there's all the same last names, right? So the Kohanim would stand with their outstretched hands, and the Rishonim tells us that the Shechina would rest on their hands, right? Yisa Hashem panav elecha, right? The panim el panim, that recreation of the experience. There's something about Birchat Kohanim, there's something about that moment in Shul, right, of Birchat Kohanim that I think everybody feels there's something special going on, right? And it's that recreation of the panim el panim experience. The Rambam says it, right? Now, so today, we don't have, I mean, the most of the Rishonim say, well, there's no Shechina that rests on the Kohanim's hands, outside of the Mikdash. But, even so, and then the Mishnah Berurah says, therefore you can look, right, while the Kohanim are blessing. But still, I think intuitively, and I think that there's something to be said for this, what happens when we have Birchat Kohanim? What does everybody do? Right? They cover their face with the talit. Am I right? Yes. Do you do that also? I got one thing wrong today. So they cover their face with the talit. What is that? That's Moshe. That's Eliyahu. That's Yeshayahu. Right? That's the Yafeh Asa Moshe. Right? There's that intuitive response to having this very sublime experience of encounter, of some kind of recreation of the Panim al Panim, which immediately, I think, creates this sense that we want to cover our face, right? So the men cover their face with a talit. I've seen some women, I will use this platform to say they shouldn't do it. I've seen some women turn their back. Right? Now I can appreciate, have you seen that? I can appreciate the gesture. I can appreciate why. Again, it comes from a good place, right? But I think in this case we'll have to leave with lo yafeh, right? That's not the right thing to do. I think it's not the right thing to do because when the Rambam describes the Birchat Kohanim, listen to the way he describes it. He says, Ein Birchat Kohanim, this was also on your source sheet, Ein Birchat Kohanim ne'emer b'chol makom, right? He's describing Birchat Kohanim. So he says, how should you bless? Ko tivarchu b'lashon hakodesh. Ko tivarchu panim el panim. And he says it at least 3 times in Hilchot Birchot Kohanim. He says, he keeps using the phrase, Panim el Panim. And this is it, right? This is the recreation of the Ma'amad HaSneh. It's the recreation of the Har Sinai experience. It's the recreation of the Mikdash. It's the recreation of Moshe's experience on the top of Har Sinai. And it's the recreation of the Kohen Gadol's experience in the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur. And I think that maybe that's one of the reasons that it's intuitively, I think it moves us. It moves us to cover our face. It moves us to be reverential, right? Maybe not so reverential that we don't want to face, right? That we still want to have that Panim experience. But what I think is wonderful about this, kind of pulling the idea through the generations, and even when we don't have a Mikdash, we still make this effort to recreate this kind of Panim el Panim, this kind of intense spiritual experience. What it suggests is that all of Am Yisrael were at Har Sinai, Panim v'Fanim, and all of Am Yisrael take Har Sinai with them, whether they're in the Mikdash or whether they're outside the Mikdash, right? The idea of the relationship, that's what continues throughout the generations. Thank you.